born again child of the Most High King.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Family Health Matters. I'm your host, Wendy Bridgers, and we are live in our studio today on Awesome Radio 106.9 FM. Family Health Matters. We are here every Thursday from 3 to 3:30 in the studio, and we invite you to join us, listen in for some wonderful information that we share with because we do believe that the health of our families matter. So, as I said last time, we encourage you to give us a call. You want to join in on the conversation, you can call us at 252-756-2008. And if you have a question or a topic that you would like for us to discuss here on Family Health Matters, feel free to shoot an email over to Awesome Radio, and we will make sure we get that in for you. So again, welcome to Family Health Matters. I have my dear friend with me today in the studio. And you all have probably seen her before, but she is a dear friend and colleague of mine from East Carolina University, College of Nursing, and she has a wealth of information and knowledge to share with us. And her passion is community health, and she knows everything there is to know about community health. And she has become a mentor of mine, and I do appreciate her being here today, Mrs. Sharon Mallette. Welcome, Sharon, to Family Health Matters.
Thank you for having me, Wendy. What an introduction.
I just love for you being here, and you do all of those things that I said. You are a wealth of knowledge. We're so glad to have you. And so today, because Sharon has all this information to share, we're going to do something that's really practical, but we know everybody needs this to hear. So today, our topic is a practical health check for the new year for 2023. A practical health check. We have to think about things that we can start the year off with and finish strong at the end of the year. And the way to do that is that we look at the things that we want to do, the goals that we've set, the inspirations that we have, all of those things, and they have to be practical in order for us to survive. So with that, Sharon, I'm going to let you start flowing with it. So a practical health check for the new year.
Thank you, Wendy. I think the initial question for me was to talk a little bit about the difference between resolutions and practical plans for living. I think going into a new year, everyone thinks we have to come up with that one resolution that's going to change our life forever. And in reality, by February or March, we've kind of ditched it. And so what I wanted to talk about from a health perspective is those things we do want to check off our list, those things that are meaningful and lasting and things that we should do year after year. I think one of the other questions that you asked about was COVID and where in the world are we with it and what are we supposed to do with COVID? And I decided to switch that question just a little bit to talk about vaccinations, because we know that for children that there are certain vaccinations or shots that they get that allow them to attend school and stay in school. But we don't talk enough about the fact that adults need to get some shots also to stay well and to promote health into their senior year. And so one topic, COVID vaccines we've heard more about recently because of the outbreak. And people thought we get these immunizations and we're clear. And like all of our other shots that we have to get, the vaccines keep changing because the virus mutates and it changes. And we have to get something periodically to keep us well. And so if you've heard about new boosters, for COVID, that newest booster is protecting us against the initial COVID outbreak as well as the Omicron. And so it's a stronger, more comprehensive shot, if you will, that if you're hearing about COVID and getting boosters, that's what we're talking about. And that should be on your checklist. There are a few others. If you are looking at vaccines, you want to make sure you get your flu shot. You want to make sure if you're 60 or over that you get your pneumonia vaccine. And those seniors who have been exposed to chickenpox want to get your vaccine to ward off shingles. So definitely want to do that. For all the gardeners out there who might get a scrape on their finger or step on a nail or something, the tetanus is one that we get. So several vaccines that we should hear about, should have on our list to make sure we're up to date on. The hepatitis is something that we need a series of shots on. But when we get those that one time, we don't have to repeat those because the vaccine is strong enough that we don't have to come back 3 years or 5 years to repeat that one. So just wanted to make people aware that there are some adult shots we should get, and to make sure that when you go to your doctor that you can do that checklist for each one of those, that flu, the tetanus, the pneumonia, the shingles, the COVID, which is the new one, and then for hepatitis. We should all as adults 50 and over have those.
Well, let's go back before we start into something else. When we're talking about the shots, let's go back to the tetanus shot.
Okay.
And you mentioned the importance of getting it. So tell us a little bit about why we should have a tetanus shot. And because I think the reason why I bring that up is because my daughter had a accident a while ago, well, a couple weeks ago. And one of the things when she was in the emergency room, they asked her was, when was the last time she had a tetanus shot? And she couldn't remember ever really having one. So just give us a little insight about the tetanus shot and how often we should have it and why it's important that we should remember when we get the tetanus shot.
Okay. We start getting those as babies. And once we get in high school, we should get one every 10 years. That is in case we have an injury on a rusty nail, which is something that can cause the condition we've heard of called lockjaw. And so if that happens and we miss it, then hopefully we're protected by getting it routinely every 10 years. If you have an accident and you realize that the fence you were working on, the nail that you stepped on, or knife that may have cut your finger that might have been rusty, and you can't remember the date, it's good to go ahead and get that just in case. So usually with an incident, they'll repeat it within 5 years. But if you hadn't clearly had something, they'll go ahead and give you a protective vaccine for that every 10 years to prevent that condition.
All right, great. And I recommend too that that's a good explanation of that because we don't think about it. So in addition to keeping a track or a record of all the other things that you keep track of, I think that's an important date that you need to actually put. I know young people use their phones for everything, so either putting it in your phone or putting it somewhere with your shot record or whatever, so that you can go back and reference that, because that is important. Okay, so I'm glad that you talked about those first, so that we make sure that we got those in. And also, when you go to your doctor, they should be hopefully asking you, are these things updated? So if you're going for your annual checkup, and that's what we're getting ready to talk a little bit about now, is that you need to go ahead as the patient or whoever's going for your appointment to go ahead and pull that record and take those dates with you, so that your provider can update your healthcare records. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the annual checkups that we need to look at for wellness.
Next on your checklist, I do recommend an annual wellness exam. We will go if we feel sick. We'll go if we hurt ourselves, but we don't think about those routine things that may be happening in our body that might not show up suddenly like that. Things that if we check out periodically, that we can do some prevention with. As part of that annual exam, you definitely want to have your vision screening, your hearing screening, that blood pressure, especially among African-American populations, because that's a risk factor for us. High blood pressure, you want to get that. Various labs, there are a number of them. And typically your doctor will look at your age and figure out which labs are appropriate for you. Women that are 40 and over, depending on your family history, maybe 35 and over, should be getting those mammograms. It's a lot of research suggesting prostate exams aren't so necessary, but I think for the person who has prostate cancer, they think they are. So I certainly recommend them for men who have the PSAs. African-American men, the PSA level is much lower when you're having some changes that might be associated with prostate cancer. The earlier you catch it, the better options you have for treatment. A new thing we don't talk about a lot is mental status exams. Memory, depression, suicide kind of checks. We need to know what our mental health is. And it's not something that just kind of jumps on you and say, my mind isn't feeling right. It'll present in some physical symptoms that make it seems like your physical being is sick when there may be some changes going on mentally. So ask your doctor to do those screenings with you because, again, the sooner we can identify a change, the easier it is to get in, to treat, to manage, and to keep you well.
So what does that look like, Sharon? What does a mental health exam look like?
Well, mostly it's questions. If you're doing a mental status exam that might be associated with aging and checking memory, they may have you do some mathematical task or remember some words and restate those. If we're talking about mood and checking mood changes, they may look at sleep patterns. They may be looking at whether or not you're feeling fatigued, whether or not you're feeling energized to carry out your regular activities of daily living. So it's a variety of different things depending on symptoms that you may be feeling that you might miss. Attention and whether or not you can maintain attention on work that you normally would have been able to perform. So it takes a variety of levels, but just make sure that when you go for your annual wellness check, that's happening. If you have the flu and you go in to see the doctor, that is not a wellness check. So you do want to go back when you're feeling okay to get your general health screen done.
And I'd like to just add in there while we're talking is to make sure too, though, that I think sometimes that people feel bad or feel funny when people start asking those questions.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, if you going, because, this is Family Health Matters, if you going with your loved one to the doctor, you might want to prep them that the doctor may ask certain questions, and it's okay. And it's really important that you be honest with your answers. Because I know sometimes we want to be well, even though we're going to the doctor, all of our answers, you want to sound like you're in good shape. But that's the time where you need to be honest and be able to actually talk or answer the questions appropriately. And sometimes I think helping sort of prep ahead of time make you a little bit more comfortable with answering those questions.
Absolutely. And in fact, Wendy, as you were talking, one that comes to mind for me that was actually asked of me recently is, do you feel safe within your home? That is such an excellent question nowadays because we've overlooked abuse for so long that people don't have a safe place to ask for help. And so that may be one of those questions you get. And I'm excited to see that providers are now asking that in terms of mental well-being.
Yeah. And so I think people can almost feel threatened by that question too, and they like, what they think somebody's happening to me. But I like that. I agree with you, what you said, that it's a good question because that sort of opened the door for people to sometimes to respond and be okay to say, well, since it was asked, because they may not volunteer that information.
Right.
Yeah.
They may not know that it's safe to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Moving again to older adults, very critical to talk about falls risk and things in your homes. If you're like me, you have those things placed just where you want them. But there are certain things, rugs and slippery surfaces and things that might increase your potential for falls. And so get that list. Your provider can offer you a list of things that can let you check your home for potential falls risk because we don't want to fall and injure any legs or break any hips.
Yeah, that's true. And even not just inside of the home, but also those porches and the ramps.
And with all the rain we've been having, and definitely in the winter with the icy surfaces that we may come upon. So being aware of how to keep yourself safe with that.
Yeah. And you want to do that, about a ramp or, rails on your porch before something happens, because, we are so quick to fix something, when it happens, but you want to do, as you said, preventive.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
The last thing is medications. I hope that your provider is helping you do your quick check for your medications, making sure that the medications you're taking are appropriate for the conditions you have. Because as we improve in some areas, we might not need the same dose, or we may not need as many medicines for a condition. So at least once a year, you need to review those and make sure that those are the medications that you need. We're dealing a lot nowadays with different narcotic use. And I think looking at those pain medicines we may have in our presence, and making sure that what we have is what we actually need, such that we're not getting caught up with wrong things, or things that might even be out of date.
Right.
So when they tell you to bring that bag of medicines, do pack them up and take them so you can get your medication review and make sure that you're safe to continue taking your medicines.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a really good, thought, and making sure, because people say they already have my records, but when you get there, yeah, they may have your records, but they may not be updated.
Exactly.
And you want to get, and a lot of us go to a lot of different doctors, and even though the computer system talks to each other, but if one doctor doesn't put it in or add something, and the other doctor that's in the other building looks at that chart and thinks that, yes, you got this, and you're saying, no, I don't, and it's because we haven't either clarified. And one thing, Sharon, I thought about is that sometimes the doctor will prescribe something and send your prescription in and everything, and then you decide you're not going to take it. And when you're in for your checkup and the doctor's reading off this list and they say, well, are you taking this? And you're like, what's that? But you need to be upfront and say, well, somebody did prescribe it, but I'm not taking it, so that they don't just assume that that's a medication that you're taking.
Absolutely. And also, medications have effects and they have side effects.
Yeah.
And part of the side effects make us feel bad. And so we may choose not to take it because of how it made us feel. That's good information to let your doctor know. They can change it to a different medication or a different dose of the medication, and try to get you connected with something that helps your problem, that doesn't make you feel bad. So do let them know whether or not you're taking it. And if you stopped, why did you stop?
Yeah, that's a great point, because if you're going to take the time to go to the doctor, and you're going to take time to get a prescription, and you're going to take time to go and wait in that long lines to get a prescription filled, then you need to take the medicine, or either you let them know that it's not working and I need something different.
Absolutely.
So if you've invested that much time in it, then you need to follow up on it.
I agree.
Great. Okay, now they'll talk about just overall health. What should we be doing? Drinking water, those common things that we think we got a handle on, but we want to just remind you and sort of put it in the forefront.
Yeah, I think these are the ones where people establish a resolution. We gained our 10 pounds last year, and we didn't like that. Hopefully not last week, but last year, and we didn't like that.
Sometimes I feel like I gained 10 pounds overnight.
But we want to correct it quickly,
Yes.
and we choose a fad of some type that's going to be the magic in helping us do that. And I know you've had a guest to talk about that, so I don't want to talk about nutrition per se, but I do want to talk about the importance of healthy eating. And we can choose that without it being this magic resolution of, I'm going to stop eating all these foods that are fattening and lose weight. Our goal is preserving and promoting health. And as part of that,
I love that.
As part of that, I think you probably can control weight gain. You may have some weight loss, but you definitely don't want a fad diet. Drinking water is one of the things I have on my checklist. So for those of you who don't like water, I would say start drinking some. There are many ways to flavor it, to get a flavor that might be more pleasing, but there's nothing like being fully hydrated. You probably see a lot of elderly people being rushed to the emergency room for fluids because they didn't get any. So we have an opportunity to prevent ourselves from being in that position by starting early, learning how to drink water. We should have 8 to 9 glasses a day, which is a lot. But I think that would definitely help in terms of flushing out some of those impurities your body doesn't need. And it won't flush if you don't drink. Your body holds on to water if it needs water. And the only way it does the full effect of your kidney work is if you give it enough water to work with. So drink your water. In terms of eating, we have our comfort foods that we absolutely love. And I was looking at a commercial the other day, Wendy. I don't know if you saw that. The person came in and wanted to return the foods that she has a love-hate relationship with.
Yes.
And then the other person says, well, do you want to just return the hate? And she said, can I do that? Well, you can. You can not eat those things that you know are are unhealthy for you from the perspective of allergies or oversensitivity. But for the ones you love, you can have foods that you love. You have to have those foods in moderation. And so I would say look at the different food groups, figure out how to have some of all of that as you want to have it, but in moderate amounts.
Yeah.
Mostly as you look at your plate, you want to make sure that it is full of fruits and vegetables as much as possible. And then slip on that plate some of those things that you might want. Because if we tell you not to, you're going to do it anyway. And so I would say just make sure that you're getting the right proportions of that food.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So check that off your list. You don't need a fad diet, but you want to make sure that you're increasing that fruit and vegetable intake. One of the things that I find is that in our busy schedules, we tend to eat out a lot. In doing so, you lose control of what's in the food. You lose control of the amount of that delicious fatty food they might put in front of you because they give you a good quantity to keep you coming back.
Yeah.
But if you cook at home, it allows you to control the amount of fat and sugar and other substances that you want to control in the foods that you make. The other thing I was noticing preparing for this is that part of cooking is therapeutic. Being able to do that lets you work with your hands, lets you relax your mind doing something that's not your day-to-day job. And it's an opportunity to have a family experience. Cooking with your husband or cooking with your children. So it's a lot of benefit you get from it, the healthier food, the healthier meal, and then some family time built in. So I think that is great. And for all of the people who love to have their cell phones available at all times doing something with them, you can use that to find some recipes, some healthy recipes.
That's true. That's good.
And use that in that way.
And you still have access to your phone.
And still have access to your phone.
Yes.
But do consider, I think, also from a money savings perspective, cutting back on eating out helps you save a little bit. And I'm losing my headset here.
You got it?
I think it's coming. Okay. I think that the other thing that I see as a resolution going into each new year is some discussion about how much exercise you're going to get. And whether or not you just need to double, triple that because of those pounds you gained. And most people who start that are probably also not going to continue that. But I like exercise. And I would say figure out what it is that you love doing and do some of that. And it may be going to the gym and lifting weights, and it may be swimming several laps several times a day, but it may also be parking a little further from the building and getting some extra steps, walking around the grocery store one lap before you start shopping. Find out a way to increase your movement within the context of what you do. I have a Fitbit, and I try to get my Fitbit somewhere between 8 and 10,000 steps a day. It's probably wondering what happened to me over the holidays, but I do try to do that. And so when I go to work, I may do an extra lap in the building, and there's a place outside of the building where I can walk around a little trail. And so as I can fit that in, I do. And so it's not that I go to the gym and stay an hour, but I try to fit those in. I've also found some online computer exercise things that I'll do. I'll go into one of those sessions on Facebook or YouTube and do a 15-minute something just for fun in the evenings. And so I may not take that 30-minute walk around the neighborhood, but I'll take several short things that allows me to get some movement in. So as we're trying to eat healthily, I would say move more and try to figure out those things you enjoy or that you already do that you can do a little bit more of to get those steps in.
Well, while you're talking about that, tell me really a little bit about planning time for me. You know, we plan for everybody else. How can we plan some time in our checklist?
Well, and I think that's the most important part of your plan and your checklist is making sure that you take care of yourself. And so I think you just have to carve some time, 15, 30 minutes out to listen to your favorite music, to read a little bit if you like doing that. If you draw, if you write, whatever you enjoy doing, carve some time out for you to be able to do that. Because part of, as we talked about mental health, preserving mental health is being able to recoil, giving yourself some time to release that stress and to relax. So those are some recommendations that I'd have for that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And now tell really just a little bit about the difference between, we say, you just said, carve some time out for ourselves. Well, what's the difference between rest and time for ourselves? Is there a difference?
Well, in the context that I think about rest, I think about probably the amount of time you sleep.
Okay.
The amount of time that you may take a relaxing power nap in the afternoon, when you actually aren't doing anything but just relaxing or resting and recoiling. But the me time is time that I hope you're awake, and time that you're actually carving some minutes just for you. We mother, we may wife, we work, we devote time to civic duties, we have church responsibilities, and all of those are important. But what is it that you do just to rejuvenate yourself and to do that? Getting your nails done, if that makes you feel better, getting your hair done, going to the stylist, whatever it is that makes you just have that time that you can close your eyes and relax and focus on something that's important to you.
Awesome. Awesome. So what about the last thing that just about engaging with our friends, social engagement?
And you say that because I owe you a lunch date. That's what
Yes,
that is.
you do. Yes, you do. Well, you said it there. It's all out on Facebook now. You said it.
Well, I think it's important to spend time with people. You want to make sure that you're as well-rounded in your lived experience as possible, and people are an important part of that. Mm-hmm. So you have to carve out time to build those relationships and make those relationships. As we go through life and we move in and out of work and in and out of different fields, you hope you've created some bonds that are meaningful enough that you can help people when they need, that they respond and help you when you need. So you have to give that time to build those relationships.
Wow, this time has just flown by so fast.
Thank you, Sharon. I'm surprised.
Thank you for that checklist. A practical health checklist for the new year 2023. So thank you again, Sharon, for being here with us. And I again am your host, Wendy Bridgers, on the host of Family Health Matters. We are here every Thursday from 3 to 3:30 on Awesome Radio 106.9. And we're on Facebook, Awesome Radio Facebook, Awesome Radio YouTube, and then we are on cable as well. So thank you for joining us on Awesome Radio 106.9. Again, I'm your host, Wendy Bridgers.
You're listening to WBIS Awesome Radio 106.9 FM on your radio dial.
Partial funding for this program is brought to you by Blessed Hands Car Wash and Detail Plus, 2016 Chestnut Street, Greenville. Vehicle inspections, U-Haul rentals, spick and span hand vehicle wash and detail. That's Blessed Hands.